Podcast.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
Welcome to another edition of Schuck on a Truck, the Zoom edition. Of course, we're not back on the tailgate of the truck just yet, but we're getting close. Even though it is winter, we might do a time or two on the tailgate. I'm Muddy River Sports editor Matt Schuckman, and this is brought to you by Refreshment Services Pepsi. We thank them for their sponsorship of Schuck on a Truck. And joining me today, a guy who has made a shift from college basketball coaching to a more analytical side of the game. And we're going to hear all about that and talk about his history and his connections to Quincy. Andy Schmitt from HD Intelligence is joining me. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Matt? Fired up to be here, man. Anytime you get a chance to talk to a local legend like yourself, it means a lot, man. So I appreciate you taking the time and reaching out to me. This means a lot to me, man. It always has. So, man, I've been interviewed in your truck, so it's a bummer, man. We can't be on the tailgate, so we'll have to set that up for part 2 when I come into town.
I was gonna say we will have to do that sometime when you're in town. Now, where are you located right now?
Man, the beauty of COVID and remote work is that you can choose where you get to live. I'm a Midwest guy through and through. I had a chance to live in 5 different states through my chapter of college basketball. And when I had a chance to do a remote work like I'm doing right now, call me crazy, man, but I wanted to get back to Illinois. I was living in Texas. I lived in New Mexico, Arizona, Tennessee. And I was like, man, I want to get back to Illinois. I live in Champaign, Illinois. I think it's the greatest city in the world. I've got great community, great family, great church right around me. And I like being in college town. So that's where I live, man. I live in Champaign.
You got to raise the daughters in the right community, right?
They gotta know what snow feels like, man. They can't want to put a jacket on when it's 60 degrees. I can't have that on my record with my kids. So absolutely, man. They gotta have that blood thick or thin, whichever one it is.
Well, and being an Illinois graduate who worked with the University of Illinois men's basketball team as a student assistant, Champaign feels like home, doesn't it?
It really does, man. It's really one of the first towns that I've lived in where I didn't have to put in my maps where I was going each day, whichever game. So, I know Prospect, I know Neal, I know University. And to me, that really had, that feels like home to me, certainly.
Well, let's take a step back. Obviously, you're from the Quincy area, went to Quincy High School, played baseball for the Blue Devils, had brother and sister that played sports at the high school level here. So the family is a Blue Devil family. But you made the shift. What's that?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, but you made the shift from baseball to basketball at the college level of what? Now, was basketball your true love growing up?
I don't know, Schuck. That's a really good question. I really like being with teams. I love being with my friends and competing with them and having a good time and having coaches like Rick Little, Randy Medemiter. Those guys, man, it was really fun. And certainly, basketball is what I spent the last 10 years doing. And I love baseball, football. I don't know, man. I don't know my favorite sport. I know I love teams. I know I love being a part of a locker room and guys that are really working together, having fun and trying to make a difference to a sport. So I'm not sure, man, but yeah, basketball is really where I spent the bulk of my time here the last 10 years.
You found that team aspect, that love of the locker room and the daily grind of getting prepared at Illinois. And that's what propelled you into the college basketball realm, isn't it?
Certainly, man. It got in my veins, seeing how coaches operate. It's kind of like a drug, to be honest, man. Coaching is in a good way, in a healthy way, right? It fuels you. You see the impact that you can have through a student athlete, through the players, and also really enjoy what you do every day, thinking about it at night, and having a chance to build a bond. The coaching fraternity is very tight. It's a small knit industry. I really do enjoy the relationship aspect of it. But I love to compete, man. It's a lot of fun. And the games are always a blast.
When you were at Illinois, and obviously you went on to several places, and we'll talk a little bit about that as a director of basketball operations, but was there the thought at Illinois of that's what I want to do? I want to be a director of basketball operations. I want to help teams in this aspect. Or was there hey, I'd love to coach at some point?
Man, really for me, coaching goes back to, I stopped playing basketball in 9th grade. I broke my hand and I stopped being in rotation. And I just wanted to go. I didn't want to go to practice every day. That sounds crazy, right? I'm a coach, but But when I stopped going to practice, I started coaching. My dad put me in YMCA basketball, and I was the head coach for a 7th and 8th grade team. I loved it. We were terrible. We went 0-9. The next year, I got to draft my own team. We went 7-2, and from there, I just felt like, man, a calling to coaching and really being around kids and impacting them. And then from flash forward to college, I had the opportunity to be in the Orange Crush my freshman year. But I knew that wasn't enough. I wanted to be on the floor. I wanted to be kind of where the action was taking place. So I had the chance to be a student manager with Bruce Weber as well as John Gross, see 2 different styles, and done it at a high level. And from there, it's really what propelled me to, man, I think if I'm looking at a lot of coaching trees, and I studied a lot of coaches' bios, I still do that. I would look at the manager, to GA, to ops, to head assistant coach. And certainly for me, man, coaching is what I love to do. The director of ops was more of a means to an end in terms of kind of getting to that next path. It was getting my foot in the door at the Division I level when I had an opportunity from a D2 school to New Mexico State at the Division I level to be the director of ops, and to wear a lot of different hats. But certainly that is, I think most director of ops would say it's kind of a stepping stone, means to an end to a coaching position.
Well, I know you got the start at Austin P, got your grad degree, Texas A&M Commerce, D2 school, and then it was on to New Mexico State, a Division I school. The learning at a D1 school, it's a different world, isn't it?
It really is. And that doesn't mean that junior college Division II, that it's not. I just think there's more going on. There's more people you have to be liaisons with. There's more contacts. There's more people involved. So there's a lot more hats you have to wear. Certainly, more people to manage. Logistics and academics and all those different things. So yeah, it definitely is learning a lot.
I don't think the talent level, excuse me, is all that different between D1 and D2. There is a gap there, no question. But the level of basketball D2 is very high.
Certainly,
it's everything else that goes around it: the travel, the weight training, the social aspect of it. There's so much more involved at the D1 level.
Yeah, and it really is a 365. In Division II, I actually didn't like it. This is back in 2016 when the guys could go home for the summer. Yeah. I liked having them. So in Division I, you always had the fellas around there in the summer. I think the rules have changed now in D2 where you have the guys there. But yeah, like you touched on the competition level at junior college, especially Division II. I was in a Lone Star Conference. That's a really high level. Now some of those teams are going to the Division I level, which is no surprise. So, but yeah, the travel, the 365, the player development, the weight and conditioning, now the nutrition aspect, and obviously academics. You need to have a certain standards of academics to continue to play each semester. And basketball really is, I could be wrong, but it's the only 2-semester sport. So you've got to really hit the books. And you've also got to make sure you understand the game plan each game.
We're talking with Andy Schmitt, sales consultant for HD Intelligence, which is an analytics group that helps college basketball teams with scouting, with scheduling, and all sorts of things. We're here on the Schuck on the Truck Zoom edition, brought to you by Refreshment Services Pepsi. And from New Mexico State, Andy, you went to North Texas, and then the opportunity to join HD Intelligence opened up. What was it about HD Intelligence that drew you in?
Man, it's interesting. The pandemic for me, Matt, really gave me a chance to do something I hadn't done in 10 years. And that was to reflect and evaluate and to think of, hey, what do I want to get out of this? And so for me, I knew I kind of wanted a new challenge. I'd been in director of ops now for 3-4 years, and I loved what I did. I loved the impact, but I also knew kind of, hey, what else is out there? And one of my best friends in the business was the director of ops at the University of Dayton when they were going on their 29-2 run. And he was telling me about this HDI company that they worked with, and he really believed it gave them a competitive advantage. And he said, man, I know you want to stick around the game. I know you love the relationships and the coach fraternity, but maybe you want to be home with your girls a little more. So why don't you check this out? See what these guys are doing. And I knew Colton Houston, the co-founder of the company, for a decade, and we kind of stayed in touch. And so, we talked, and man, it took me a 45-minute Zoom to realize at any path, any head coach I'd work for, and I'd work for 8 of them, any program that I work with, and I'd work for 6, I would go out of my way to have this incorporated into the program. I believe what it does impacts winning at a really high level. On average, our clients win 2.25 more conference wins and increase their net ranking by 11.25 from year 0 to year 1. So this is not another service. This is not another line item on a budget. This is really, something that's changing the game. And for me, it was wanting to be on the forefront of that. So I was a big believer early on of the impact HDI could have through a myriad of ways with college basketball teams.
And it keeps you involved in the coaching fraternity. You're talking to coaches, you're talking to director of basketball ops, I assume, and making these connections to explain to people what you do and how they can benefit from your relationship, right?
What I love to do more than anything, man, is talk with coaches, whether it's coaches I know or whether it's coaches that I've never met, but I followed them for a long time. I know, like I said, I loved reading coaches' bio growing up. It's kind of weird, but just kind of seeing how they got to where they were. And now I'm able to, I have a conviction in my heart that I think what HDI does, I believe with everything I have, that what we do impacts winning from a scouting perspective, from a transfer analytics perspective, from a self-scout, from a lineups, from a scheduling perspective. It just gives them an edge. It's just another tool in their tool belt to really see the game a little bit differently. And it's not changing up what they're doing or reinventing the wheel. It's just attaching the wheel to a different wagon. And so for me, I get to reach out to coaches that I've always followed or guys that I have relationships with and tell them, hey, I think this is more than worth your time. And I think this could make your processes more efficient, more thorough, and give you a competitive advantage from an intel perspective that other teams don't have.
Are you finding more and more, the more you talk to people, the more coaches you contact, they're at least interested, maybe not on board yet, and maybe some are jumping on board right away, but are you finding more and more are like taking it to heart and going, okay, maybe we need to do this?
Certainly. There are the early adapters, right? There are the guys that are hey, I want to try this out. And there are some guys that maybe after a year or two, hey, now, but either way, what I do know is there is an appetite in college basketball for analytics done the right way. And what I don't think that coaches need, and the guys that I work for, I don't think they need another login to a website and another spreadsheet with data. But what they do have an appetite for, and what they crave for, is how does this impact winning? How does you telling me about a lineup impact? How does having an opponent scouting on tendencies and tempos and individual players that it might take them 5 or 6 games of watching film to figure out? How does that help me impact winning? So that's the fun part to me, to know that what we do can really help them save time, but also win more games.
Well, and the beauty of it is you have a chance to grow with this company because there is a market for it and there's the opportunity for growth.
Yeah, we started out, this is our 3rd year, Matt, but Matt Dover and Colton Housen, who started the company, and they're both brilliant. Colton is spent 10 years in the business like myself at a high major program doing scheduling, analytics, director of ops, you name it. And then Matt is a world-class data scientist. And what they started out with 4 teams, high major, low major, mid-major teams. And one of those teams was Dayton. They went 29-2. So that was kind of the pilot program, along with Cincinnati, Alabama, and Incarnate Word. But then we grew last year, we grew to 10 teams. And this year we really believed we had an opportunity to grow exponentially. We did. We grew. We have 35 programs that work with us, that hire us out to partner with us to give them an edge, have an analytics department, because the truth of the matter is, in college basketball, the video coordinator is a position that 25 years ago wasn't as common as it is now. Now every program in the country has a video coordinator. And I believe that for example, if you go to the NBA, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but if you go to the NBA, all those teams have an analytics department, 10 guys reporting to them with data, with analytics. Well, in college basketball, some are slowly starting to add a department or add a person. So there is an appetite, and I think the college game will eventually catch up to the NBA. It's just a matter of time. It's
going to happen in a lot of sports. Just from a local perspective, Quincy University's baseball program added an analytics guy.
Awesome.
And it's done amazing things for them in terms of their performance. So I think you're going to see it on a lot of different levels for a lot of different sports once people understand it and adapt to it.
Absolutely. It is growing. And like I said, I think we're growing too. I think that only speaks to the coaches having the appetite for analytics done, but done at a high level and done in a way that, can really appeal to them. I think analytics can get a bad rap, Matt, sometimes, where, man, it's just a nerdy guy, or it's just baseball telling me to shift, or basketball telling me to shoot more threes. Yeah. But it's so much more than that. Really what it is just a way to interpret and apply the data instead of just giving you more information, but figuring out ways to get it onto the scouting report, to get it on the court, and to have conversations with the players of, hey, this is what the numbers say. This is where I'm coming from. And it just gives you one more resource and another tool in your tool belt to be convicted by your gut and intuition that coaches have spent years working on.
Obviously, I know you're in Champaign. Does that allow you to follow the Illini as much as you want?
Yeah, I bleed orange and blue. I go to the games. Coach Underwood does a great job with his program. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to be back home and to really continue to be a fan of the team, but also meet with a lot of teams that come in here and have a chance to preach the gospel of HD intelligence and analytics at the I Hotel or wherever it may be, for the men and the women's side. We have 35 teams, and some of them are in the men's, some of them are women's. We have 6 teams in the SEC, and so it's a lot of fun to meet with clients that are partners that come in town and have a chance to get face-to-face, elbow to elbow, and talk about or hear about their program, and also talk about ways we could partner together.
I know you bleed blue and orange, but do you still follow the blue and white at Quincy High School?
Certainly, man. Before I was running a little late for the meetings because I was reading about the biggest blowout in QHS history, man, was happened last couple nights ago. So
yeah,
that's unbelievable. Of course, you were there to cover it, and I mean that's incredible, man, to have a 70-point victory or whatever it was.
Wow.
So Coach Douglas has really got it rolling there. I think they went on a 31-0 run. So that's fun, man. There's no environment quite like that opening of the QHS basketball game.
You're gonna have to bring the daughters over for it sometime.
I think it might get mixed emotions. My 5-year-old is a little bit. She kind of wants to take things in. So I think if she saw that intro, I'd probably have to prep her. My 2.5-year-old, almost 3-year-old, she'd probably be all in. But it would certainly be a fun night of basketball.
Well, you got years to get that done as they grow up, and you'll have a lot of fun with that.
Absolutely.
Well, hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today on Schuck on a Truck, even though it's the Zoom edition. But great to see you're doing well, and we'll talk more down the road.
I appreciate it, man. Like I said, man, you've got a way of making people, even if momentarily, feel what they're doing is really important. Whether it was me, being the catcher at QHS basketball, or now with an analytics department, or when I was at New Mexico State, man, I remember you reaching out. So that means a lot, man. There's a special place in my heart for what you do with Quincy in the local area. So I appreciate you immensely.
Thank you, my man. This has been Andy Schmitt of HD Intelligence, joining me on Schuck on a Truck, brought to you by Refreshment Services Pepsi. Join us again for our next episode.
We get out, fired up, hook big ones. We get out and rip it, and we track them down. So crack a Mountain Dew, get out and do.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.